On the top stories, Cameroon's President Paul Biya today received New Year wishes from the diplomatic corps in Yaoundé. That aside, we shall be taking you out of the country to give you the situation at hand with respect to the US of A and Iran tension keeps escalating. These and more we have in this newscast. Good evening and welcome on this primetime edition of the news on Equinoxe Television. First things first, we begin with those images right away from Yaoundé. Those images on cover shot, which actually comes back on Cameroon's head of state, President Paul Biya, who has today received New Year wishes for the year 2020 from members of the diplomatic corps and national dignitaries at court. Today, in the nation's political capital, Yaoundé would recorded among issues pinpointed in course of the New Year wishes by the diplomat was inevitably the Anglophone crisis and the general security situation of the far north aligned with the northwest and southwest regions of the country, situations which President Paul Biya promised to take handling. And we talk something else in this newscast. We'll take you to the northwest region of the country where back the situation and tensions keeps escalating. Recently, we've had another reaction of the national chairman of the Social Democratic Front, Nijon Frundi, who reacts on the recent tensions in the northwest region precisely of the country. Let's take a listen.
Attack is on Frundi and the SDF. With all the politicians of the CPDM party in the northwest, none has been attacked the way I've been attacked. Drag me down. And in the face of it, I stay with the people. Government has offered to give me protection, the gendarmes or police for me to be moving around with. I refused because I want whoever has a message for me to feel free to come and talk to me. Not thinking that when you come, you'll have confrontation with the gendarmes. But with this, they don't want to come. But sitting to give me instructions on the social media. 2 years ago, I was at the BBC London for an interview where I said, I am prepared to discuss with the leadership of the fighting southern Cameroonians anywhere in the world. This time in Minnesota, before I left, one of the separatists out here called the leadership of the southern Cameroonians there, told them that I'm coming, I want to meet them. Can we talk? Now, the instruction they give, Freely, we're telling you, is this how you will take the southern Cameroons and run? Dictatorial. Right and left and forward march. I am inviting people. Can you come? Let us sit down, talk. They say, well, we already know your son. We cannot come. Get out of parliament. Get out of Senate. We'll teach you a lesson. Is that the society we want to build? What I'm afraid about, Jonathan, is that the population, they're getting tired and fed up.
An extract there compiled by Babila Jonathan for Equinoxe Television, and we talk something else in this newscast. The situation of the far north region is not getting any better with recurrent attacks on the local community back there. Schools are gradually closing their doors, even though in some parts people are picking up from the activities. We would recall recently donations have been made to encourage pupils and students to get back into classrooms. We have details with Immaculate Fogwe on recent donations in the far north region of the country.
Activities of the Boko Haram terrorist group on Cameroonian soil since the year 2014 has led to multiple displacements, even though the number of suicide attacks, kidnappings and burnings perpetrated by the terrorist sect have decreased. Many persons are still affected. Another sector equally affected is education, At least 92 primary schools remain closed due to heightened insecurity. The situation has led to overpopulation in some schools in the Mayutanaga division, thus making the environment not comfortable for studies. Added to it, many students lack the necessary materials needed for studies. It is against this backdrop that administrative authorities offered benches, textbooks and other didactic materials to some schools in the area, a gesture greatly appreciated by most of the students.
I'm called Samantha Naseli. I'm from the Southwest region, precisely in Equinoxe Tv. I was there in St. Pius College, Equinoxe Tv, and because of the crisis, I was asked to come over here to continue my studies. I'm now here with my elder sister, and I'm here to receive the gifts from the Minister of Education, and I really want to say thank you for his support. I'm also in an examination class, actually in Form 5, and the books I'm going to receive right now are really going to help me to pass my exams, especially the textbooks. So I really say thank you.
The students are equally calling on administrative authorities to build more classrooms for them so they could study in a comfortable environment.
And up next, Armstrong for me, Sandra tells us that the English-speaking regions, the situation has been spurring up local authorities shy away from their respective posts of responsibilities. He paints a portrait of the northwest region of the country.
One of the normal cause of events affected by the Anglophone crisis is the traditional meet-the people or contact tour of civil administrators in the northwest and southwest regions. For over 3 years of the Anglophone crisis, some administrative officials have not been able to tour their administrative units, and in Kambe, central subdivision of the Donga Mountain Division, northwest region of Cameroon, the newly appointed divisional officer Mr. Ngida Lawrence Che is changing the narrative. In an unmatched show of patriotism, the Tabinken Fons Palace was jammed to capacity on the occasion of his maiden visit. In turnout and colors, compared by inhabitants to the 1989 historic cultural week that saw the enthronement of the current Fon of Tabinken, the people of Tabinken welcomed a visibly satisfied divisional officer in their newly constructed Fons Palace. Speaking, the divisional officer Mr. Ngida Lawrence Che pleaded with the people of Tabinken to remain law-abiding, collaborate with the defense and security forces, and continue sending their kids to school. Also present to welcome the divisional officer were over 1,100 school kids who recently benefited from school uniforms donated by His Excellency Shejus Yembe. The maiden contact visit of the divisional officer featured the unrivaled cultural display of the mythical Ne of Tabinken, a group that represented Northwest region at the recent National Festival of Art and Culture in Betwa East region. The historic rassemblement, according to Tabinken villagers, is thanks to the efforts of sons and daughters of the land like Galat Gerard and traditional rulers who are on a tireless battle for the return of normalcy and total transformation of Tabinken village.
And we talk something else. We stay in the northwest region of the country with this information that five militants and supporter of the Social Democratic Front Party have been abducted this week, Tuesday, precisely, and still in captivity of alleged amber fighters. They were abducted in Tuba subdivision in the northwest region of the country for promoting activities and holding meetings. We would recall ahead of the twin elections. We have details with you, Innocent Aze.
The new occasion for Tuba when SDF member.
5 Social Democratic Front Party supporters and militants under captivity.
Then 7 of January 2020.
Gunmen alleged to be restoration fighters abducted them on Tuesday, January 7th, 2020 in Tuba subdivision, Mesam division of the Northwest region.
Begin look up.
Your voice come out. The social secretary for the party.
At the district executive member, what they take care for women then?
The coordination for education and sensitization.
Next month.
I'm the district chairman in charge for communication for the Tuba electoral district.
According to gunmen speaking in the video, the 5 members of the Social Democratic Front Party were heading for a meeting ahead of the upcoming legislative and municipal elections February 9th.
Now they book this way, we want to go down meeting with them.
In this video, the alleged Amber Boys are threatening the life of one of the culprits over the others for rubbishing their warnings.
We feel leave the other people them because we don't know we don't catch them.
You know how long we don't define it?
We'll set the example for you.
The SDF national chairman is yet to react on this. Ambazonian fighters in the restive northwest region promised to bring nightmare on any SDF militant, supporter and parliamentarian who participates in any political deal, notably elections in the region. Results have either been kidnapping or arson attack. Commentators say while some SDF militants fear the unknown and withdraw from the twin elections, others prove to be brave and continue with all boldness, certainly because of the heavy deployment of the military in the northwest and southwest regions for effective and hate-free elections. Separatist fighters had announced a lockdown in February to frustrate the elections and the National Youth Day celebration.
And we talk something else in this newscast. This time around, we move over to the southwest region of the country, where authorities of higher learning institutions say universities are not to be blamed for fallen would say a standard, but the poor education received at the nursery and primary levels of education. These declarations were made by Chief Professor Agbo Bechem, Dean of the Faculty of Education, in course of a workshop in Aboyo, precisely at the university. We have details with our correspondent in the southwest region of the country, Derek Chato.
Critics are still hard on the point that the standard of education in Cameroon is steadily falling, and the negative feedback from employers complaining that most university graduates are unable to deliver is coming just to back the above observations. But higher learning institutions say they are not solely responsible for this falling standard. For to start from the beginning, the nursery and primary sector should come into the picture.
So we have many problems in our education sector, and we are not putting emphasis on who is teaching the children at the base. And when we start off with a weak root, it is difficult to catch up when they come up in university.
So our Chief Professor Agbo Bechem, Dean of the Faculty of Education in the University of Boya, has not only identified what he called the main problem, but his faculty is also bringing in solutions, and that is distance learning.
How we can take the education back to the teachers, this time not making them mobile by leaving the primary schools. By so doing, we got an MOU with the Commonwealth of Learning, where they are now designing programs for us to see how we can do online course development, so they can stay where they are, follow up classes where they are without necessarily leaving places like Akwaya. They don't necessarily need to live in Kambe to Boya for classes.
Today, the Faculty of Education is receiving Dr. Quenty, a consultant sent by the Commonwealth of Learning, an intergovernmental organization hosted by the government of Canada, for a workshop with lecturers of the Faculty of Education on this distance learning.
Is for lecturers of the Faculty of Education to upgrade their skills, to develop online and distance learning programs, put them online, run them, and actually manage them.
The University of Boya Faculty of Education is encouraging primary school teachers to engage in this distance learning program. First, to advance their teaching skills, and secondly, to step up the educational standard of Cameroon from the base.
And that does it for national news. We take you out of the country with these images and cover short on international news. The U.S. says it's ready to take additional action against Iran, but wants to engage in negotiations. In a letter to the UN Security Council President, the UN or the U.S. precisely justified its actions against Iran as a self-defense response to an escalating series of attacks. The U.S. also noted noted it is prepared to take additional actions as necessary, but added it is ready to engage in serious negotiations with Iran with a goal of preventing further endangerment with sea of international peace and security or escalation by the Iranian regime. Welcome back, unsaid, and that does it with this international page. Unfortunately, we couldn't have a talking point because of minutes cut up by our guests. Certainly, we'll meet up tomorrow. Have a lovely evening in the company of our programs.